So I finally had a chance to watch the wizarding world of UnMagical Negroes.
You know, the name needs a little updating, maybe like magical black people, or I guess that doesn't have the same ring.
And when I tell you, everything that I expected showed up, and it showed up even worse. Let's talk about it.
Y'all already know what time it is. I got the black V-neck on.
I want you all to join me on this unmagical journey of anti-blackness. I had a chance to watch the movie American Society of Magical Negroes. And as someone who is a fan of magic and also black people, I was excited to watch this movie. I was excited when I saw the title, but when I saw the trailer, I already knew what it was giving.
You cannot have a relationship with Lizzie now, because if you don't put Jason first, everyone's magic will fail.
And as I did further research of the people involved, I became less interested.
When the trailer dropped, it did spark some controversy for you as the writer.
I didn't hear about
director.
this. What are you talking about?
And a lot of people like myself who had that opinion voiced it online and was met with all types of negativity, because some people do not understand that a trailer does sometimes tell you a lot about the movie. There are YouTubers who I even follow who break down Easter eggs in 20 minutes on a 30-second trailer.
On the side of a semi, we can see the branding for Patriot, the beer that first appeared in Grand Theft Auto 4.
So trailers are specifically catered to the viewer to make them interested in seeing the body of work. Yes, sometimes we don't get everything in the trailer, but the trailer gives us a hint of what's to come. And this movie was not a big budget movie that wanted to hide all of the details.
Look, we're a small black independent film at the end of the day. I'm just excited people are talking about it.
They had to give us a good trailer to tell us what's going on, because we have no idea, but we got hints. We got hints of magic. We got hints of things that we've seen in other movies and franchises that are not in association with this because of copyright. So a lot of black folks were excited about this movie. A lot of black folks have been waiting to see some black folks with magic. We've seen a lot of skits and stuff, and people go viral online for making, references to Harry Potter, black folks having magic, and what would have happened if black folks had magic. So a lot of folks wanted to see what it was going to give. But like I said, when the trailer came out, a lot of folks was like, I don't know about this, because we saw this non-black woman who was supposed to be the love interest of the main character.
Hey, I'm Lizzie.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
She's great.
Yeah, she's cool.
You kidding? Come on, man. She's smart and funny.
So a couple of people were defending it and saying that we do not recognize Satire, that it is supposed to be a play on the magical Negro. And a lot of us know what satire is. Like, a lot of us incorporate it in our response to a lot of things that we see every day as a black person. There are a lot of black folks who do skits and stuff that are similar to this.
It's not easy learning a new skill. Here at Dignity and Ambition for Magical Negroes, or DAM, we help magical Negroes from classic films go from supporting to lead.
Some people do not understand the history of satire. That's why I'm doing this video, because I was curious of why this movie failed. Why did American Society of Magical Negroes fail when there was a hunger for black folks with magic and black folks who want to laugh and be entertained? Why did it fail? Let's talk about it. So before we get to that question, we have to, one, ask ourselves, for the people who say we do not understand satire, what is satire? So while doing research and trying to understand the history of satire and where it originated from, I ran across this article on Oregon State University that I want to read and share with you all. Satire is the art of making someone or something look ridiculous, raising laughter in order to embarrass, humble, or discredit its target. As a literary genre, satire is one of the oldest. The term was coined by the classical rhetorician Quintilian, who used the root of the Latin word satura, which means full, and was familiar to many Romans from the phrase lax satura, which described as a medley of fruits and apparently conveyed the miscellaneous quality of early satire. So there are a couple versions of satire. One of them is Horatian satire tends to be good-natured and lighthearted, looking to raise laughter to encourage moral improvement. So when we're thinking about moral improvement, we're thinking about critiques on politicians, people in positions of power, like calling out. It can be a comedy skit that's written on a newspaper or a skit like Saturday Night Live.
First off, I just want to say how excited I am to be in front of both the liberal elite media as well as the liberal regular media. I am looking forward to a portion of your questions, so let's get started.
This is their version of that. Juvenalian satire tends to be bitter and dark, expressing anger and outrage at the state of the world. So when I think about this version of satire, I think about this known meme of a plane dropping off bombs, and people have, changed it to, oh, it's from her, it's from our first female president. That is that version of that. People being intentionally unalived by the powers that be, and us, back in the US, believing that, oh my gosh, we just voted in the first female president, the first black president, the first queer black president, something like that. When these people are just basically carrying out the same things that previous folks have done. We're white. So the thing has not changed because of the face or the color of the skin of the person or whatever.
To folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border, do not come. The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border.
We can look at that right now of what's going on in Palestine under our current administration.
Today, NBC News has some exclusive reporting about how administration officials actually watered down parts of that speech, which were especially critical of Israel.
So we get a little bit of understanding of what is satire. And now we can talk about why this movie in particular did not make it.
What are you trying to say? I'm not sure this is for me.
But we still got to talk about the magical Negro trope because people said that we did not understand the trope. So let's discuss that. I actually really enjoyed doing research on the magical Negro because you saw throughout history from Uncle Remus and the Sons of the South to the Green Book, like how it has changed over time.
But what do you make of Green Book as a film?
Christ, I'm blacker than you are. Excuse me? You don't know shit about your own people.
One of the most recognized magical Negroes is Uncle Remus from the Sons of the South, where we have this magical Negro singing tunes and singing to birds and stuff, while we also, are hearing negative things about black folks, and some of the tunes and some of the characters is giving that. So while doing research and trying to understand the magical Negro and the definition, I ran into this article about the movie itself on colorwebmag.com, and this article was written by Monique. Spike Lee coined the term in 2001 when he spoke at Yale's then named Calhoun College about black images in film. He cited 4 films containing what he called the magical, mystical Negro. Those films include The Family Man, What Dreams May Come, The Legend of Bagger Vance, and The Green Mile. As he talked, he asked the audience, how is it that black people have these powers, but they have used them for the benefit of white people? Blacks are getting lynched left and right, and Bagger Vance is more concerned about improving Matt Damon's golf swing.
I think it's time.
Time for what?
Time for you to see the field.
The field? I see the field, but it's 445 yards long. It's got a little red flag at the end of it. It's 12 strokes ahead of me. Come on.
That ain't it. Because if you was seeing the field, you wouldn't be hacking at that ball like you was chopping weeds out from under your front porch.
Lee described the magical Negro trope as a continuation of the stereotype of caricature of African Americans as the noble savage or the happy slave. I also love that Monique makes a point to talk about There's a difference between a Uncle Tom and a magical Negro. A magical Negro also isn't someone who is an Uncle Tom, even though the two have overlapping symptoms, if you will. And Uncle Tom might also be a plot device, but it's a stereotype that has become a real life slur. And Uncle Tom is a magical Negro trying to function in reality. And Uncle Tom might align itself with whiteness to an uncomfortable degree at the expense of the morality, self-esteem, self-love, and self-worth. Monique then goes to use Justice Clarence Thomas as an example of an Uncle Tom compared to a magical Negro, aligning with whiteness.
For you, what do you say to critics who say the only reason you're being picked is because you're black?
I think a lot worse things have been said. I disagree with that, but I'll have to live with it.
You're referring to the press? How about that for a name?
Well, I also say I didn't make this election.
President. One of the ones that kind of jumped out to me as a child, I never really did understand it when I was young, was the WB frog. I don't know if you all remember it, but it just made me uncomfortable. Something about this frog in a top hat and having this kind of black voice, like tap dancing, just made me uncomfortable. What I find fascinating about the Magical Negro is that the Magical Negro does not necessarily have to have magic. That was the start of it, but it has manifested as many things. I'll give you some examples. Jennifer Hudson in the Sex and the City first movie, how she was helping Carrie, she was her assistant, but she was helping Carrie with her love life. Like, she kept talking to her about getting back with Big, and like she has some emails and da-da-da. And she is the reason why she got back with Big. So helping the white protagonist, because we didn't see anything too much about Jennifer Hudson's character. We didn't learn too much about her. She was fat, dark skinned, and she was the help, essentially. But she didn't have any magic. She didn't have no birds, singing on her, whatever, but she offered words of wisdom. Another example that jumped out that I have not seen was the Green Book, where Mahershala Ali's character, was supposed to be the main subject. Like, he was the one in positions of power. Like, he had money, he was talented, he was the celebrity. Even with the power that this character had, it still was in servitude of the white character. Still, even with him being rich, he was helping the white character with his problems.
Thank you for sharing your husband with me.
Thank you for helping him with the lettuce.
Other examples are La La Land. I've not seen that as well. There are certain movies that I never had the term or the language to explain why I just wasn't interested, and these are two of those movies. And Mahershala Ali is a true talented actor, like, there is no doubt about that. But sometimes, they get in roles like that. So we understand that although we recognize old versions of the Magical Negro, it still is present in films that we have seen recently and will exist as long as racism exists. Period. So now that we understand satire and the Magical Negro trope, which I hope y'all do, we can talk about now why the movie failed. Why did it fail? Why weren't people interested? The movie only made $2 million, and as of now, they have pulled the movie from theaters. I had a chance to see it at a theater, and I was the only person in there. Actually, it was one other person who came in there, but why did it fail? I think the reason why it failed is because they did not understand the audience. I think, like a lot of media, whether it's a movie or a show, they try to give this story of blackness and whatever, and like, oh, we're gonna tell a black story. But there's always teaspoons or tablespoons of whiteness being centered, because they want a white audience to come see this film or movie or watch this show.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm sorry to embarrass you in front of all your friends.
Oh, so you felt like the odd man out for 2 minutes. Guess what? I feel like that every day on this campus.
Yes, society sucks, but I would never let my friends make you feel you didn't belong in my world.
that is where the quote unquote money is at to them. They don't want to take any chances of making something too black to the point that it turns white audiences off. So they try to meet in the middle, and it doesn't do anything. They did not understand the audience. Honestly, black folks are beyond this. I feel like this movie is something that should have came out years ago. It does not work in 2024 in a post-George Floyd era. And the fact that I'm even using a black man being unalived by police as an example of an era is just the state of the world that we are in. And the reason why I say that, because I think about movies like Get Out. If Get Out was to come out right now, I don't think it would receive the same reaction.
This motherfucker's life.
So many things have happened, the pandemic, all of the unrest that was happening during the pandemic, all of the things that was moving towards, like, you know, history repeats itself. Like, it's not new that black folks have been experiencing these things. It's just too close to home, and we are just not interested in the story. Like, black folks are starting to catch on. Like, black folks are like, girl, why every time we see a black character, you know, who is in a movie, they have to be a non-black person? People are starting to catch it in commercials and all versions of media that we get. Like, I see it all the time. I even see it when I am looking at campaigns around HIV and PrEP that you don't too much see a lot. They changed it now, where the black person is with another black person. The same critique that I had with Empire when it first came out, and Jamal's character was with a non-black person. Nothing is wrong with a character being in a relationship that is interracial, whatever, but it seems to be the only version of blackness that we are force-fed, and a lot of us are tired. But we still got a long way to go, because if we ain't seeing that, we're seeing the black, dark-skinned man in a relationship with the lighter character. Child. Another reason why this movie failed is that it tried to give this sense of Harry Potter. Like, it tried to give this sense of what some of us, you know, grew up watching Harry Potter. For those who don't, people who probably are introduced to it later on, they wanted to see versions of that. We've seen content creators do funny skits and versions of this professor in Harry Potter, if they were black, or if it was a black student at Hogwarts, what it would have looked like, what would Quidditch look like. So that is in our minds. That is what, you know, my generation is thinking about. That's what we are hungry for. And they tried to play in that. Like, you saw the font that they used in this movie. It gave a version of Harry Potter and the wizarding world of that, but not too much, because we don't want to get sued. I feel like they tried to pull on that nostalgia of Harry Potter for a lot of us. And even to the soundtrack and the music that was used, I was like, oh girl, they are really trying it. And it just did not give what we thought it was going to give. You had black folks who had magic, but only could use it in servitude of white people.
Because if you don't put Jason first, everyone's magic will fail.
I was hoping there was like a team building thing.
We're all in this together now. So you have to set up Lizzie and Jason, and I have to drive around this crotchety old white lady.
And I get that it's quote unquote satire explaining the magical Negro trope. But again, as I referenced earlier, that does not work in 2024. Maybe in 2018, doing shows like Dear White People, where it was trying to do something and educate white folks, and it absolutely did nothing. A lot of those shows, you know, are gone now. Because it's this belief that if they create content around the experiences of black folks, that maybe, you know, white people understand, and maybe white people will get it together. And one, it doesn't work because it's oftentimes watered down. I think about the show Blackish, where they struggled trying to have a conversation about colorism.
No one in this family is as dark as me. That's the problem.
That's not a problem. The fact that you're different is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. If it's so good, then why are you all so scared to talk about it?
There was an episode that was supposed to be aired about Colin Kaepernick that did not get pushed. ABC and these networks are not interested in telling these black stories like that. It's too black. They don't want to do too much to alienate the audience. They want to make it digestible for white audiences. So it's no surprise that majority of the folks on Blackish are light-skinned. It doesn't surprise me, unfortunately, that American Society of Magical Negroes, the main character is light-skinned. Like, it does not surprise me because this is a version of blackness that they are comfortable with. And I have to be honest, and this is no shade to Justice Smith or any of the folks I'm mentioning, but when I look at some of the folks who are involved, Justice Smith is sadly the magical Negro or the magical minority in a lot of movies.
You know what I like about you, Ultraviolet?
What?
You're all the colors in one, at full brightness.
He doesn't have any magic, but he is the token black, palatable, digestible black person in these movies. He's been in mainstream movies that have went on and been box office hits. The Pokemon movie, Jurassic Park, I don't know if it was a hit, but I enjoyed it, where he's the only black person in the movie, or the black person who's getting, you know, any type of attention or whatever. And it's kind of like this season, okay, we got a black character, we got a black person here, we're doing that. And Justice Smith is a talented actor. I think he is talented. I don't want to take anything away from him, but we have to be honest, and these conversations are uncomfortable. It's even uncomfortable for me, for somebody who is not in the industry, but somewhat is and have access and have seen some things. You know, even seeing someone like a Nicole Byer, where Nicole Byer has, you know, been in specific projects and stuff that cater towards white audiences. Like her version of comedy and how she talks and stuff is digestible for white folks. Like, white folks are comfortable with it.
I like that dress. That's
I know,
serious.
right? Oh.
It says things, and do you know what it says? Because I think that's either Japanese
I don't
or...
read.
Yeah, okay.
So it's not, and it's no shade, it's no surprise to me that these people who fit into these things also have non-black partners. Now, I know that Justice Smith has a black partner. Like, I know that because people wanted to let me know, but his partner is also light-skinned, and that matters too. And it's not Justice Smith's fault. It doesn't mean that he's not a good person or whatever. What it means is, though, there's a specific type of blackness that Hollywood is only interested in.
As any marginalized person can attest to, we've had to find ourselves in white stories. We've had to find white characters that we identify with for so long, and then now that we're centering ourselves in these stories, white audiences for the first time ever are being like, oh, like now I have to find myself, even though no one in this looks like me. You know, I really identify with this protagonist, and but that's where empathy comes from. You know, that's where actual movement comes from.
They do not want someone that is too black. Now, I understand that blackness is not a monolith. We've heard that so many times, but there's only a certain type of blackness that Hollywood is interested in, and we see it. As someone who's been to LA a couple of times and been at some of these industry events, it's no shock to me that a lot of the black folks in Hollywood and LA have a lot of white friends, because no shade, some of y'all hate y'all blackness as much as y'all white friends. Catch it. Like, I've seen how you all pick and choose what versions of black that you want to display. Again, blackness is not a monolith, but the fact that you have no problem picking apart blackness and talking about things you do not like, but you don't give the same energy to whiteness is very interesting to me. But we're not gonna get into that too much. I'm gonna save that for another video because that's a lot. I feel like I done got off topic, but you get what I'm saying when I talk about like blackness and the version of blackness that Hollywood wants to put out. That's why this movie failed, because you had this version of blackness that was supposed to be palatable to white folks, and white people were calling it woke movies.
Haven't we all had just about enough of this anti-whiteism and black fragility?
Being described as a satire to play on the magical Negro trope, in reality it was just a massive woke virtue signal that everybody could see straight through.
The attempts at the yucks and the oofs in the trailer actually just come across as regular, far-left ideologues talking quite openly and earnestly about how they feel about people from different races.
You know, with this piece, I think it's actually a terrifically universal piece.
To have this black YouTuber who was critiquing it and, dragging it, calling it a woke movie.
The American Society of Magical Negroes is a race-baiting movie about how supposedly dangerous white people in America are.
There's nothing about this that was woke. Like, there is nothing. This is not even, it doesn't even read. Like, the number is undefined. Like, I can't, because it's not woke at all. And I hate how people use the term woke. I do not use that term. Haven't used that term in so long, child. It is completely eradicated. This movie was nowhere near woke. Nowhere was it. So it wasn't good enough for white folks, and it wasn't good enough for black folks.
It's easier if I show you.
No.
It damn sure wasn't good for black folks. Even the bougie blacks who can somewhat relate to it was like, oh girl, like it's not giving, because they saw straight through it. Again, this movie does not work in 2024. Maybe 2016, 17, or 18. Maybe before all of the things, even Trump being elected and stuff. Maybe. But girl, this movie failed to even be critical of race.
Independent of the sort of racialized sort of generation of that for myself and for the character that Justice plays, I think that's something a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds can connect with.
Like, they were trying to remove racism and make racism where white people are just uncomfortable. Our powers are being used to keep white people from being upset.
We are constantly monitoring the happiness of every white person in America. And when one gets too unhappy, they become a client. You'll use a white tears meter to get a reading of their distress levels. And it will also let you know when their distress has returned to acceptable white person levels.
Like, we're trying to keep white people from being upset, because it's not that white people have a history of these things, it's that, they're just mean. And it's just, that criticism isn't strong enough to resonate in 2024. We know it's not that anymore. Like, we're too connected. We see things online too much where, yeah, we get the quote unquote Karens and all the other stuff, but we move beyond this. Like, some of y'all are just what y'all are. It's not about y'all being irritated. It's not about y'all being uncomfortable in the workplace. It's about y'all being what y'all are. And I'm not gonna say that here because terms and conditions, and I ain't trying to get too technical. Let's get back into the movie as we talk about the reasons why the movie did not do well. Is it didn't know the audience, and it's dated, to be honest. This version of comedy about the Black experience is dated. And to be honest, we've seen enough. I think I've seen enough. Me and the judges will deliberate, and we are deliberating.
For all of you girls up there, I don't want to hear any goddamn excuses. Be prepared.
And it's quite interesting to me to see who is allowed to tell these quote unquote Black stories. Who is allowed to? Because when we look at the person who is the director or whatever, writer of this, it is a biracial Black male who has a white mother. And again, because I have to keep putting this out, terms and conditions, child, but there's nothing wrong with having a white mother. Nothing wrong with biracial folks telling stories. But if it's the only version of Blackness being told from this specific side, what are we doing? Even going back to the conversation about the Magical Negro, Key and Peele did a skit about it on their show a couple of years ago, a while back, where they talked about the Magical Negro. And it got a little chuckle out of me. But I didn't laugh too much. I was like, okay. People enjoyed it around that time. When we take a look back, this story is being told by two essentially like biracial folks who have white parents, and both of them have non-Black partners. Like, again, who is allowed to tell the stories of Blackness? Kenya Barris, who has an obsession with light-skinned stuff. Like, he just wanted every character has to be light-skinned, which is why he was not able to tell an in-depth episode about colorism. He can't. This is the only version of Blackness that is being told. This is what they want. And we don't want it. We're not interested in it anymore. A lot of us, too many of us are seeing, it's not given. And that's no shade to Jordan Peele or Key. I have my own critiques of them, but I am tired of being force-fed Black experiences from folks who do not have a connection to all Blackness. Yes, Blackness is all over, but the specific Blackness that y'all display is always ready to be produced all the time, every time. I'm tired of it. Even going to Donald Glover, who had a history of talking up and fetishizing Asian women, produced a well-watched show called Atlanta. This is the person who is telling a story about Atlanta. Atlanta, one of the Blackest cities in the world, one of the Blackest cities in the US, and you have a person who is telling the story, who is responsible for a lot of the stuff, who has a non-Black partner, and who also has a history of, only dating a specific type of woman, specific type of person who is not Black, who's been called out for fetishizing Asian women. So it's just, who is allowed to tell Black stories for our consumption? Going back, as talented as Justice Smith is, I can't see Justice Smith in a all-Black ensemble cast. I can't see it. You won't. There are some Black actresses and actors who've been able to play in an all-Black cast movie and then go on to play, in some mainstream things. But there's only a certain version of Black folks who are allowed to do certain things.
Beyonce released a new music video that embraces her Black heritage. Beyonce video is unapologetically Black. Tribute to the Black Lives Matter movement. Showcase for Black men. Claims her Blackness like never before. Honey, get in here! Video yet.
What is it? What's wrong?
Black. Out of nowhere. I think Beyonce is Black.
I think about Gabrielle Union. I think about Sterling K. Brown, who I can see Sterling K. Brown play in an all-Black cast. I've seen it. Like, he can do that. I've seen Gabrielle Union do it. And she also can play in a mainstream white film, because mainstream is whiteness. Don't get it twisted. When people say mainstream, they're talking about whiteness. They're talking about whiteness. Get that understood. So there is a reason why this light-skinned person, Justice Smith, was picked to play this, character. Him being lighter skinned is because of that.
And I read it and I identified with it. It was my experience, I had gone on a similar journey of racial empowerment and making space for myself in this world, and I knew that I could lend myself to the piece.
And the more I think about this, and I might be getting a little bit off topic again, but I wouldn't be me if I didn't. I'm also thinking about what Justice Smith agents look like and what they tell him, because we're not going to see Justice Smith in some of these other, we're going to see him be, the Black queer person in movies, or the Black person, period. But we're not going to see him in an all-Black cast. And I think that's because of his agents too, because they're not taking no calls for him to play in no Black movies. They just not doing it. And some of them don't want to, because they don't want to lose out on opportunities, and they don't want to be solely put in Black films that do not do well and, do not go on to make big box office dollars. But we have seen that it is possible for a Black ensemble cast to make money. And to be honest, I really don't care about a Black movie going on to make major profits. I care about it being good. I care about it being a well-written movie, because if we are solely relying on it just making money, because Black folks are out here spending money, they're out here doing the things and supporting. Because there's a conversation right now about Gerard Carmichael's show on HBO Max, whatever you want to call it, to save money on taxes. So Gerard Carmichael has this show that people have been talking about because he's on there praising white folks. They're sucking white men toes. He's doing all these things. He is interested. He said it. He's into race play. He said all of these things. And people are trying to say that us dragging it and talking about it is the reason why Black shows don't do well. You all did not do this conversation and stuff and tweeting about these other Black shows and stuff. That's why they got canceled. No, they got canceled because they don't believe in black stories, period. People tweeted about rap shit. People tweeted about Insecure. These shows are being canceled because it's like, oh girl, we don't have to do that. That era of, saying that we care about black stories and stuff, oh, that's not bringing us the money that we want to anymore. So we're not investing in that. Like, get that off the TV. I'm not watching that. Again, going back to a certain version of blackness being told, because you're this dark-skinned man who has a show about his life, who is, it just so happens that he is sucking on white men's toes in the show. Like, let's be honest. We have to be honest. We have to say the uncomfortable part out loud, period. There's a reason why that show is on. Like, because white people don't watch that. Like, white millennials who date black men, who specifically seek out black men, are watching that. Matter of fact, them and their white partners or white husbands are watching that. So they can know who they can go pick up. I know this video ain't getting monetized. So back on the movie American Society of Magical Negroes, Justin Smith's character Aaron is being introduced to magic by Roger. And Roger has been working, doing this job for a while, and he's teaching him how the power works and all these things and And we learn about the, white tier meter, and we are seeing him interact with a white cop, and, the white cop is uncomfortable. So it just doesn't work. It's like a Saturday Night Live skit, and it's not giving. And we see this, like, there was a couple of times I laughed, a couple of times I'm like, and I wasn't moved. Like, for an hour and 30 minutes, whatever, it just wasn't enough for me to feel like, oh, okay, like, oh, girl, this is good. It just didn't reach it. It never got to that point. So we get to Aaron finding this job, and he, because he was trying to be an artist and the art wasn't selling. Even that was corny. And he has his job, and he is interested in this white woman. Now, I will say Justin Smith, like, his chemistry with that white woman, the acting, it was on it. Like, it was cute. I was like, okay, girl, I like this.
I feel like if I squint, I can totally see the Chrysler Building.
Oh. It's supposed to be the Empire State Building.
That's what I said, the Empire
That's not
State
what you
Building.
said.
Yes, it is.
So Aaron finds out later that the white person that he's been assigned to make sure he's okay is interested in the white woman he's interested in, or the non-black woman. I don't know, child. It don't matter to me at this point. Like, just like I thought. Girl, I'm so trash. He's interested in her, but he cannot date her or show any more interest because, it can mess up the system. So he finds out later that someone else who's been given a white person to make happy or whatever, they talk back to the white person and they told him off or whatever in a respectful way, and everybody's powers went out of whack. Like, everybody's powers started being wacky. And Nicole Byer's character comes down and explains, that's not how it works, and she banishes her, like, hey girl, your memory will be erased and you can't do that. Like, that's not the purpose. Like, we are doing this to, keep us alive. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm taking a step back. Okay, how is it that y'all have been around? How long have y'all been around? How long has the American Society of Negroes, Magical Negroes been? Because what the hell was y'all doing around slavery? Like, what was y'all doing around slavery? What were y'all in master's bedroom peeing? Like, what was y'all doing to keep, like, see how it doesn't work? See how it falls flat? Because not 2014, like, folks are more aware now. So it's just like, oh, how does this work? Folks are thinking these things, so it just does not work. So realizing that the powers are going to be zapped if you use it for yourself, it just doesn't work. And Aaron starts to feel even more stronger feelings for the white woman, and it causes the powers to be completely out of whack, like completely out of whack. And he is found out, like, you are responsible, like, you having attraction and being interested in this woman is causing all of this. Like, girl, we gotta kick you out. So Roger then has to, wipe his mind and send him on his way. And Aaron is interested in this. He's like, okay, it just is what it is. And it doesn't work for some reason. Like, it just doesn't work. And I was kind of confused. Maybe, you know, the American Society of Negroes has been disbanded. To me, that would have been a better story ending, that it's not our job to do this to make white people comfortable. That could have been something, but that is not something they're going to consider, because unfortunately, that is not their thought process when it comes to really understanding anti-Black. They do not understand it. That's why it is hard for people who are not well-read or understanding real things to do a film about it, because it shows up. So we get to the end of the movie and Aaron shows like interest towards the woman. Like, okay, girl, like, I guess they're about to date or whatever. And she leaves and goes about her day and goes into this beauty shop or whatever. I don't know what the hell, skincare place or whatever. And come to find out she's a part of a society called Supportive Women Characters Trope. And that's supposed to be the gag that explains why Aaron was falling for a non-Black woman. Again, we could have did that with a Black woman. We could have done that with a Black woman. And you could have inserted maybe a Black woman who was dealing with misogyny. Like, yes, you get it as a Black man, but look what I'd have to deal with as a Black woman. I'm dealing with sexism and racism at the same time. That would have been a gag. But again, the people in charge don't understand these things, but they want to be critical. They want to talk about it, but they're not well-versed on the things that they're talking about.
And I read it and I identified with it. It was my experience, you know. I had gone on a similar journey of racial empowerment and making space for myself in this world, and I knew that I could lend myself to the piece.
Which goes to what I have been saying for a minute, that your experience is just not enough to make you a subject matter expert. There are things that I have experienced that I am not the subject matter expert on these things. When people come talking about the, you know, stuff that's going on in Atlanta, whatever, you know, when it comes to HIV and AIDS, I am a person living with HIV who lives in Atlanta. I am not the subject matter expert to talk about these things. So I would then tap somebody who is well-versed to be able to talk about those things. Sometimes I gotta say, you know what? Thank you for the opportunity, but I'm gonna pass the peach, period. And we did not see this with that. Like, y'all should pass the peach. There was nothing educational, informative, or anything that we can take from this message that works. Like, it just did not. It fell completely flat. And it's no wonder that this film did not make any money. It just didn't do well. And I'm just not surprised. So what can we do? What can we do? I don't know. I'm not really sure how to make better movies that is going to be inclusive of Black folks and all. I'm just not sure, because Hollywood is white. It's white. And I don't think it's changing anytime soon. I would like for it to change. But if it does change with, you know, these things, what else would we deal with? Because there's not just issues with Black folks and stuff that are in movies. Also, a lot of ableism. Like a lot of fat folk. You have, you know, characters wearing fat suits. You have characters who are not disabled playing disabled characters. There is so much. And I just don't think that some of these people have the range to be able to write a complex story, even if it is from the point of satire. So, girl, I don't know. Sometimes we ain't gonna have all the answers. We just know that the stuff is wrong. But that's all I got. I do want to say that I really enjoyed doing the research and understanding this topic to talk about it. And I appreciate you all for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you all so much for supporting me and everything. And until next time, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.